So I don't forget in the editing phase, I'm just going to give myself a quick heads up. The video footage in this review comes from FC Playthroughs. I don't own any of this footage, and FC Playthroughs plays the game way better than I do. They are clearly more experienced with this than I was. Okay? Okay. So let's get the obvious out of the way first. Sonic Rush was the very first Sonic game on the Nintendo DS family of consoles. And it is a side-scrolling platformer, but believe you me, this isn't your parents' Sonic, that's for sure. See, they gave this game an urban kick. The rhymes are fly, the beats are sick, the crew is big, it keeps getting bigger, that's cause Sonic the Hedgehog is my friend. Yeah, so while this Sonic may be 2D, it is by no stretch a return to roots, and is definitely quite a major departure from the classic games or the Sonic Advance series, which was handled by the same developers as this one. Dimps, Sonic Team's companion developer when it came to doing handheld stuff, or anything that Sega just don't really give a fuck about. After Sega's console market went down, they just wanted to get this Hedgehog absolutely everywhere, on every single device. So while Sonic Team worked on such console classics as Shadow the Hedgehog, Dimps would work on more of the handheld Sonic market. And for a long time, Dimps were in many ways the keepers of the 2D classic Sonic legacy. They were the ones who brought us that fabled fourth installment to the major 2D classic Sonic games, Sonic Advance, which went on to become a trilogy of its own, and good as it was, it definitely had some Dimps hallmarks, areas where it showed that Dimps had a different attitude to what the Sonic team of the 1990s did towards the overall game design. Sure, while a game like Sonic Advance felt like a classic Sonic game in terms of how Sonic controlled, the level design was quite a different story with much more bottomless pits than what we'd come to expect in the original, say, Genesis trilogy. And these design choices were not as well received by fans, but did Sonic Rush fix any of that? Did it fuck? I didn't do much research on this one going into it, but I heard nothing but glowing praise for Sonic Rush, with friends of mine saying, this game was my childhood. Now, let me just quickly preface this. I hate using the term overrated, because I feel like that implies that someone is wrong for liking a certain product more than I do. I also hate to assume why people that do like something more than I do like it more than I do. I would much rather listen to what they have to say. But I'm gonna say this, I do think Sonic Rush is a little overrated, and I do think some of that falls down to nostalgia. Now, this isn't a concrete statement. What I'm saying here is not like a 50-ton brick, okay? Like, it's easily penetrable by your feedback. It can easily be dismissed by the facts. But my reason for saying this is that Sonic Rush is home to various hallmarks of Sonic game design that Sonic fans don't typically tolerate. I'll go into this further, but for now, let me just make one thing apparent. While I do have issues with Sonic Rush, they don't necessarily hold a huge amount of stake on my overall gameplay experience. My opinion of this game definitely changed the more I played it. In fact, look, some of my favorite Sonic games I didn't necessarily have the best first impression with. The first time I played Sonic Adventure 2, I got to Pumpkin Hill and dismissed it altogether. And I left it for a good few years, and I wouldn't pick it up again until just very recently, and I love that game to bits. It's now one of my all-time favorite video games. So Sonic Rush was very much the progenitor for what modern Sonic would go on to become throughout the 2010s. It does command some respect because this is easily one of the most influential Sonic games ever made. Because while this is a 2D side-scroller, it definitely doesn't play like the classic Sonic games. Instead, we have boost gameplay. There's a big emphasis on stunts and tricks. You perform tricks when hurtling off of ramps or bumpers, and it fills up your tension gauge, which gives you boost energy, where you can just slash through these levels at bullet speeds. And that feels great to do, even in its very early, very primitive form in this game. It feels great. I love the boost gameplay. I'm a huge fan of the boost Sonic games. I think they tend to get a bit of a bad rap simply because Sonic Forces disappointed everyone, but I think prior to that they had a really good thing going on. And yeah, in this game it definitely works really well. Aside from the boosting, Sonic also has his usual skill set. If you don't have much boost but need to get a quick burst of speed, you can do so by doing the spin dash. Sonic also has what I call the part-time homing attack. I call it this because half the time it doesn't fucking home onto anything. And half the time, it also leaves you very, very vulnerable. While Sonic Rush definitely laid down the groundwork for some really positive things to come for Sonic, it also laid down the groundwork for some more negative things to come. For example, the physics engine in this feels very Sonic 4-y. He doesn't do all that well with platforming. He doesn't feel very equipped for it. It's not terrible, but it definitely doesn't feel like that signature Sonic platforming gameplay set. Also, I can count numerous times when I was rolling down a hill and losing momentum, which just doesn't make any sense. Now, you would think, okay, you're going to be spending most of your time boosting in this. This is a game that encourages you to go fast, right? Well, like I said, I went into this one blind, but then I realized it's not a good idea to play games if you can't see, so I opened my eyes. And I played it and discovered everything for the very first time. And it needs to be said, this game is not kind to newcomers. Sonic is no stranger to having difficulty curves and a lot of learning curves, but this game is pretty intense for first-time players. First things first, screen crunch. You're playing this on a Nintendo DS or 3DS. I was playing on a 3DS, and I still found screen crunch was a problem. Even with making use of the two vertical screens, it still had its hindrances when looking out for things even above and below me. You'd think with two screens that wouldn't be an issue, but it especially becomes an issue in some of the parachute sections in Altitude Limit, where you really need to take a leap of faith and just go down, and then you'll find the platforms are there. Now, the reason this is so bad is because oftentimes you can't see anything below. It's a bottomless pit that this game is absolutely abundant with. Let me just say, a bottomless pit is such a punishing fucking obstacle. It doesn't challenge the player. It's not a platforming challenge. It's not something to test your skills. It's just a dick move. And it often just falls down to the telegraphing. You don't necessarily know soon enough that there is or isn't a platform below you or ahead. Even when you're not going at extreme speeds, there's often very little warning of obstacles ahead. And this is a problem throughout the entirety of the game, but especially in Altitude Limit. Gotta be said, that level is, like, it's a well-designed level. It's just, with the amount of bottomless pits and stuff, it doesn't lend well. If it had, like, a warning for the bottomless pits, it would really help things, and I can kind of forgive it given the theme of that level. But it's just like, there's a lot of trial and error in this game. And it's all well and good to have a game that's got a lot of trial and error, but then it wants to have its cake and eat it too, because it's got the live system returning from the classic Sonic games, which they would later down the line get rid of, but the fact is, you got the live system in place right here, and as well as that, if you do die prior to the boss, you got to do the entire stage all over again. So let's say you've beat Act 1 and you die on Act 2, you're going to have to do Act 1 again. But it does fortunately kind of save your progress before the boss fight at least. As long as you get past Act 1 and 2, you're fine. But as I say, there's a lot of trial, a lot of error, and it's very punishing for it as well. The more you get to know the stages, the more fun you will have. The game definitely rewards you for knowing the stages and replaying them. And there was never like a point where I was like, well, what the fuck do I do after multiple attempts? Usually, if I'd done something wrong, I could easily correct it on a later playthrough. It's just that if you're a first timer that doesn't know these levels, you're gonna die a lot. And I personally would say Sonic games are at their best when you can complete them without dying too many times or getting too many game overs as a first time player, but you're rewarded for really mastering them. So it's like, you can play them as a newcomer, but you play them well upon revisit. In this case, you're not gonna get very far as a newcomer, and you're really gonna have to do a lot of trial and error, which can be very frustrating, and involve a lot of going backwards and forwards to places you've already been before, which can be both frustrating and discouraging. And in terms of kind of trial and error, I think what really typifies this is the boss fights. The boss fights in this game are not very good. There's often great concepts at play here, but there's just some things about these bosses that make me go, Jesus, You think this was maybe just a bit much? There's a lot of attack phases, very much a turns-based thing. The boss will take its chance to attack you, and then you get your window of opportunity to attack the boss. And I have to say, I much prefer the Sonic boss fights where you can gauge when you're going to attack the boss. It's a much more fun experience, and you can really speedrun those things. Here, you just gotta wait your turn. But I find these bosses to be pretty unfair. For starters, the very first boss in this game has 2 instant kill moves. You think that might be just a little bit much for the first boss? The second boss in Water Palace has a belly flop move where I can't for the life of me figure out how to dodge that. It's just kind of a matter of taking the hit and collecting your rings afterwards. That's bad design. And I find that oftentimes the telegraphing on the boss's attacks aren't great. Like, you'll see it do something, but you have no idea what kind of impact it's going to have. Like, again, the Water Palace boss fight. There's a phase in this boss where the head removes from the body and it stretches around and you think, okay, I'll jump on the head. What I didn't realize was you don't immediately get the opportunity to jump on the head. If you do it too early, you're gonna get chomped. And if the boss does get its attack on you, you're not gonna get much chance to attack the boss back. Your post-hit invincibility is pretty debilitating. There is one boss in the game which I can safely say is good, and that's the Versus Blaze fight, which happens just before the final boss of Sonic's story. It's a pretty well telegraphed battle, and it does feel like an intense kind of character battle that we don't see all too often in Sonic. But then you follow that up with the worst boss in the game, which is the Final Zone boss, which has multiple unavoidable attacks. I can't for the life of me figure out how to escape the electrical attacks without losing rings. Some of the attacks are just too fast to dodge, and it's very, very difficult to get a hit in because you get a very tiny window of opportunity, which is another problem with many of the bosses in this game, is you get such tiny windows of opportunity to attack. But then we have a second playable character, who basically plays the same story again but in a slightly different order, and that's Blaze the Cat, the newcomer to this game. She has a higher jump than Sonic, which really, really helps out on the boss fights. As well as that, instead of the part-time home attack move, she's also got a hover move, which saved my ass from a few bottomless pit deaths. She's a much more fun character to play as in this. Although I'll say this, when it comes time to fight Sonic, he can do things that you as a player can't do as Sonic, and that always pisses me off. He can make tornadoes. Why can't I make tornadoes? I just played as him. I didn't make a tornado. That's so very 2005 of you. Blaze's stunts can also grant her quite a bit of height. I am admittedly a little confounded by the fact that her fire abilities work underwater, but hey, all the better for it. In terms of the story, it's fine as well. So basically there's 2 dimensions converging, and we've got Blaze entering this dimension from her own soul dimension to retrieve the Soul Emeralds while Sonic collects the Chaos Emeralds, and they need to take down 2 Doctor Eggmans. One Doctor Eggman is from our world, and that's, you know, the familiar one. The other one is... I can't say that out loud. That's just gonna give people ammunition. I get that it means negative, and it's not a problematic word, but it sounds problematic. So I've decided, in light of him having a very problematic sounding name, I've given him a new name. Eggman Fegit, or Fegman for short, who is the Eggman of Blaze's dimension, and it's quite fun because when playing as Sonic, you'll be fighting against Fegman most, and when you're playing as Blaze, you'll be fighting as Eggman most. Now, Sonic has to collect the Chaos Emeralds through going through special stages, which are basically the fucking half pipe again, except you use your DS stylus to control Sonic, which is very convenient, but they throw a lot at you in these special stages. As for Blaze, well, she gets the Soul Emeralds back from Dr. Eggman by force. Like, when the boss is over, she goes after him and gets the emeralds back. Sonic, on the other hand, just snaps his fingers, as if he just lost a dance battle down an alleyway. Let me just say, I prefer Blaze's way of doing things, far less time-consuming. To get to the special stages, though, you have to use these turnpike thingies. And you boost so fast that you enter another dimension. The dimension of the half-pipe. Can I be real, you guys? I didn't bother. I got, like, the first couple of emeralds and then I gave up. Look, man, I don't have time for this. I'm an adult now. I might have done this on a long car journey back when I was, like, 10, but no. It's not worth it. I mean, okay, you get, like, a Supersonic and Burning Blaze boss fight, and she shoots projectiles and he does supersonic things. I'm just citing Garrulous64 for this bit. Very addictive channel, that. Go check him out. Oh yeah, okay, it's also worth noting, both Sonic and Blaze have their own little companion characters that come with them for the adventure. Sonic has Tails, who does not shut the fuck up during boss fights. Please, Tails. Shut the fuck up. And then there's Cream the Rabbit, who just completely makes herself completely vulnerable to any kind of predator out there, and just becomes friends with strangers unconditionally. Blaze happens to be that stranger. You know, one thing I really like about Blaze's story is just this fish out of water thing that she's going through. She's in this dimension where everyone acts wacky, like Knuckles and Amy, and no one shuts up about this Sonic guy. He's this absolute Gary Stu that she's just sick of hearing about, to the point that when she does finally meet him, she wants to kick his ass. Gonna say though, pretty unreasonable that. Blaze, there's no way to be, okay? He's not responsible for his reputation. He's a very competent dude, and just, like, I don't see this guy and think, God, I want to fight him, you know? No, leave him be. They fight because he offers to help, and she just does not like being helped. And her whole arc is like, you've got to accept help from people. And she's like, no, I don't need no help. And then at the very end, Sonic's like, I'll help you. And then they fight, and then she loses or something, depending on which story you're playing. And then Sonic's just like, look, dude, just accept the help. And she's like, you know, okay. So on a whole, Sonic Rush, a game I have some issues with. But as I say, they don't hold that big of a stake in my experience with it. It's a fun one to revisit. Once you understand these levels, you'll have a good time, you'll feel awesome in the process. It's just there's a lot of telegraphing issues in this one that persist throughout the entire experience, and that's really unfortunate. But you know what? It's fun, it's innovative, it's thrilling, it's very stylistic. Can I also just mention the music in this one? Everybody gushes about the music. To me, it's weird. It's weird music. They got these weird sort of rap lyrics to them, and I don't know what any of them are. I have no fucking clue what anyone is saying. And sometimes they just sound really obnoxious. Like, I feel like I would love this soundtrack a lot more if it didn't have these vocals on them. But hey, again, it is what it is. I appreciate the art behind it. Very good. Good stuff. Okay, right, we're packing it up now, boys. What do you guys think? Comment below and discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below are different links to different social media feeds, as well as the Patreon for if you just want to go the extra mile and support me that little bit more. A special shout out goes to the patrons at the $10 tier, and that is Marcus Ward, Cirrus the Skeptic, and Biotonauts. You guys are, as the kids would say, the real MVP. And as for the rest of you, thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a great day.